If you are a beginner who wants to create really beautiful professional looking mini sketches, you have come to the right place. In this tutorial, I will show you how to create 4 different sketches, starting from the simplest and working my way up to the most complicated sketch. I will break down each drawing into few really easy to follow steps. And all of these can be done with very simple materials that you probably already have on hand. So really, no excuses. But that's not all. If you really want to excel in drawing and do it quite fast, I will show you this one thing at the end of the video that you can do today to make your drawing learning 2 or even 3 times faster. So make sure to watch till the end. For those of you that are new here, hi, I'm Layla. Welcome to my rainy, gloomy studio. And this art channel where you can learn lots of tips, tricks, and all sorts of different things that might be very helpful in your own practice. So remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell to get the most from these videos. If you'd like to try this yourself, make sure to get some drawing paper ready, some smudging tools, brush, a tissue or a smudge stick, pencils, erasers, and if you want to, as an option, a soft tack tape. Because these works are quite small, you can use leftover or offcuts of drawing paper. So you can cut it regularly with a knife, or if you'd like to have this very natural, almost a little bit frayed edge, you can always just fold and then cut in this way. That way you get quite an interesting little frayed edge. So I have different sized pieces here, which means we are ready to go. As an option, you can use soft tack tape. You don't have to do this, it's entirely up to you, but if you'd like to create really nice sharp edges on your little sketches, which can look very cute, especially because they're so little, you can do this step as well. To start off, I'm going to be using the really just classic regular 6B graphite pencil. Anything similar to that, 5B or 8B would be fine. So you don't have to really stress if you don't have exactly soft B, but it does have to be a softer pencil. So something like H won't do the same job. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a gray overall shade, which will allow me to create lighter and darker areas. Try not to press on the pencil too hard because you don't want to create very strong, definite lines at this stage. You just want to create this gray backdrop for yourself. Next, pick your favorite smudging tool. You can use a smudge stick, a brush, or if you don't have anything on hand, you can always use tissue paper, which does just as good a job for this specific technique as all the other smudging materials. Next, let's create a line of horizon. Try not to place it right in the middle. Try to move it either a little bit upwards or a little bit sort of closer to the bottom. I'm going to do mine somewhere here. I'm still using the same pencil, by the way. And I'm going to create some mountains in the distance and shade them in a little bit darker. I'm also going to add a couple of extra little bits of land that are sticking out from underneath the water. And land on the foreground. Now, next step is something that's going to make your work much more professional versus just the beginner style art. And we are going to take this, either a tissue or whatever your favorite smudging tool is, and we're going to go around and just give it another smudge. Now this softened everything and created a very, very nice atmospheric view. You can see how this line, rather than being quite sharp and quite prominent, it's softened up nicely. But what we want to do is we want to keep the sharpness on the foreground to go in line with the aerial perspective. So I'm going to go over this again to sharpen and darken it, this area. Now it's time to use our eraser. So I've got a putty eraser here, which will be very handy to have at this stage, or you can use your regular eraser as well, and I'll show you with both. So we want to place a setting sun or moon, whatever, maybe it's a full moon, it's entirely up to you. And we're just going to erase this little rounded patch like that. You can use this kind of eraser, just make sure you have a nice sharp edge or corner. And you can clean it up like so. Again, you can stop at this stage as well, but I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to go back in with the eraser and I'm going to create reflections on the water. Just like that. And here we go. Here is a ready artwork. Did you see how quick and how easy it was once you know how to break it down and do things step by step? But the last and very important step, also the most fun, is to remove the masking tape. Look at that. Look how beautiful this is and how quick and easy it was to create something like this. Don't forget to sign your little artworks. And it's ready to keep, frame, gift, or do whatever you please with it. Okay, let's get on to the next one. By the way, if you want to know more about painting and drawing, you'd like to win artworks, you'd like to take part in suggesting for the next video and so many other things, check out my Patreon page. We are starting from $2 you can support this channel, and from $8 you get access to so many different posts and videos. You guys will be watching it for a year. So make sure to check it out, and I hope to see you there soon. Again, I'm applying some masking tape. Okay, now for this one, I will also show you a few simple steps. And just like before, we want to create a little bit of the background, but this time we are advancing to a gradient background. And what I mean by that is we're trying to get the backdrop a little bit darker at the top and the bottom, leaving a lighter band of color in between. And just like before, you can use a tissue or a smudge stick. So in this situation, rather than mixing everything together, you want to smudge in sections. So going from the top, moving towards the bottom. Can you see the gradient that we have created? So darker, lighter, and then darker again. But I want to make this even more obvious. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm using the 6B pencil. And just at the very top and the very bottom, I'm going over again. And again, giving it a little bit of a smudge. Now just focusing on the areas that you have covered with the pencil again. Next step is to create some vegetation, like bushes and some trees in the distance in the background. So for that, again, I'm going back and I'm still using the same pencil as I promised. These are very simple materials and very quick little sketches. So what I'm going to do is I'm very gently going to mark a line like that. And now I'm going to softly shade all of that in, just creating a layer of graphite over the area. Giving it a little bit of a smudge. Next, you want to identify some trees and branches and things like that. But we're not going all in, we're not making them super dark. We are just really softly creating silhouettes. To make drawing a little bit easier, if you're a total beginner, think of it as a lollipop with very, very soft edges here for the branches and leaves. And then adding few branches that are going up. That's all there is to it. So don't feel scared or uneasy trying something that you haven't done before. We can add a couple of more things there in the background. Remember, at this stage, softness is the key. Okay, so this is our background and midground finished. Now we need to work on the foreground. The foreground is going to be the jewel of this whole thing. So for that, you can either sharpen the pencil that you were using before, 6B would work fine, or I have this mechanical pencil which I'm going to use for this step. What I'm going to do is first I'm going to mark the tree. I'm not going to mark it straight off the tape here, but rather like this. And it's not going to be directly in the middle, it's going to be just a little bit off center. Marking the areas of leaves and branches. And now we can really shade it in. So I want to make this as dark as my pencil will allow me. You don't want to shade everything in as one big lump. You want to leave some areas where you can see the sky through, just like naturally you would see some light coming through the leaves. And same with the trunk, you want to darken it and add few branches as well. You can add few branches without any leaves. The more detailed the branches, the more interesting the whole artwork will look. But that's not all. We want to create a very strong, dark and sharp foreground as well. So here, maybe bits of grass, maybe some small bushes or trees in the foreground here. You want to create that contrast at this stage. Now again, it's time to reveal our little painting by removing the masking tape. Here we go. What do you think? Now the next little artwork is going to be again just a little bit more harder, or as I would say, there's another layer of difficulty added to the previous. I'm going to use masking tape. And again, we are going to create the very soft backdrop. This time I'm going to make it so that it's a little bit lighter at the top, and then it becomes a little bit more darker and really builds up down in the bottom. So very similar to what we did with the previous sketches, but now you want to build it up to more towards the bottom. And just like before, adding another layer of graphite over the darker region. In this drawing, it's right at the front, on the bottom of the paper. And again, it's time to smudge. This time, rather than smudging everything out of control, I'm going with the horizontal motion smudging. So going from one side to the other, like this. It will help us create water-like surface. As I promised, this is just a tiny little bit more advanced. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create almost like a piece of land with some trees. Everything is going to be in this almost fog-like view. Just like before, we don't want to create very strong, very dark values. We want to go with very soft, very smoky sort of a look. This area that's just a little bit at the front here, you want to create a little bit of that darker, stronger edge. Still very, very soft, not super contrasty and very washed out. Just a little bit more intense. Now we're going to smudge, but here, if you're using a tissue because you don't have a smudge stick, you might want to fold it so that you get a really nice sharp corner, or if you do have a smudge stick, you can just go over with that. Not smudging everything out of control, just dabbing a little bit to soften the areas and make them appear even more smoky and foggy. Going over all the trees and the rocks themselves too. And really blending it out on the bottom. You don't want to have a sharp edge of horizon or anything like this. And now we're going to do another thing that's a little bit more advanced from the previous sketches. We're going to use this putty rubber and we're going to create very soft clouds. They're not going to be like your clouds on a sunny day. They're going to be more like a fog, you know, foggy kind of clouds. These foggy clouds can also go over the trees and the rocks themselves. Okay, if you want to make them a little bit more prominent, you can always just go over them again with a smudge stick to build them up. Okay, now I also want to lighten this area just a little bit. So for that, I'm actually not going to use this as an eraser. I'm going to use this more of a stamp or stamping material and just go over like that. As I said, I want this to really melt into the background, into the clouds. Okay, now you see how creating a little bit more of that lighter area here has really made this very fairy tale like, very mystical and foggy. Again, you can go over and sharpen some of these if you want, or you can go and highlight, bring more clouds in. It's up to you. Just whatever you do, remember these should not be super sharp and very in contrast. They're definitely not like this tree that we did here. We will do more of that on the foreground. Okay, now I'm going to make a little sort of a sharp edge on my putty eraser. You can use your regular erasers as well for that. And I'm going to, not super bright, but just to soften a little bit. And some lines, I'm going to give these little lines that sort of create a wave-like look, you know, make this look more like water. Again, they don't have to be super strong, sharp, or anything like this, but just a little bit, few larger ones, longer ones like this, and then few smaller ones as well, like little dabs. Next, you want to use a fine pencil, either sharpen your regular one or use a mechanical one. And I'm going to draw a boat. Now, this is, as I said, this is a little bit more advanced, but still, go ahead and try it, because you never know until you try it. If you are a total beginner, you can try it out on a separate piece of paper to see how you go, maybe a couple of times, and then draw it on here. Completely up to you, or just go for it and see how you go. Okay, so I'm going to create the little tip of the boat here, and then a line like that. See, it's going back, but it's just a little bit curving like that. And then there's the back of the boat and a little bit of the inside of the boat that's visible, just like that. And here's the area where the boat meets water. Now we're going to shade this in. We want to keep this reasonably sharp. We don't want to make it very, very soft, otherwise it will also look like it's quite far away. And we're going to do a person here as well. Now the person is not as hard as you'd think, so you want to do a little circle like that, and then almost like a rectangle, not a fully perfect rectangle, can be a little bit wider at the top or bottom. And we can give this person maybe like an arm. Like that. We are also going to do a reflection in the water. So reflection in the water will be almost like a very similar boat, just upside down with a person, but instead of doing it very, very sharply, we're going to sort of create even more wavy, kind of a uneven upside down boat. Also going to just darken this line a little bit more here, just to create more definition between the boat and the reflected boat. Here we go. I would also, because when the boat is moving through water, it'll create a little bit more ripples. So let's add a few more contrasted bits and pieces like that. To really finish this off, we're going to add some grass right on the foreground. So remember, the closer things to us, the more sharper they appear, so we can really sort of create little strands. And of course the reflection as well. Now these should be quite sharp and quite contrasted and dark. You don't want these hazy, fuzzy or anything like that. Put a little bird in there. Here we go. Now let's remove the masking tape again. Here we go. What do you guys think? Again, much easier when you can see how it's done step by step, isn't it? And not so scary at all. Now on this one I'm also going to apply some tape to keep the edges nice and straight. And this one will be a little bit different because I'm including Spinosaurus in this sketch for that special viewer that watches all of my videos and comments with the request for a Spinosaurus sketch under pretty much every video. Okay, so first and foremost, just like with the other sketches, we want to create the backdrop. Now, this backdrop is even more complicated than in the previous sketches because now we want to leave a lighter area over here and shade a little bit more over here and more of a circular gradient. Just like before, use the smudging tool of your choice to soften the background. Darken just a little bit more around this area. Okay, next I'm going to create this almost like a foresty tree sort of a structure here that's going into the distance. So for that, I'm just going to shade like this. You want to keep this area quite soft and quite blurry. Now smudge. And at this stage I'm going to go over them, but just giving them just a tiny little bit more definition. You can still smudge them, but I would suggest either using a tip, rolling your paper and using a tip to smudge, or just using a smudge stick. Next, I'm going to create a little bit of vegetation on this side too. Just like a backdrop, nothing definitive. You don't need to put specific type of tree or anything, just something there. Softening it again. And now I'm using the fine pencil. You can just sharpen your regular pencil, and I'm going to do an overall sketch. Now I'm going to go through these steps quite quickly. If you're a total beginner, I do have a video on my Patreon page about how to draw and structure animals. I go in detail about how to, giving you a formula, how to structure any animal that you might like, to draw. So I'm going to follow these steps through. I won't be explaining too much, but if you're a total beginner and you still want to go ahead and do this, maybe sketch it out on a separate piece of paper and then you can add it in here. So I'm going with a simple geometric shape for the body, which is an oval. That will be my beginning point. And then the neck and the head. Tail. Legs. And of course little front paws. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade everything. You can just use your regular pencil. No definition at this stage of anything, but just creating a shadow. That's all you need to do at this stage. Oh, I forgot to put that spine thing. And next you might like to smudge this. And now we can start going into the more of the detail. So we've got the head here. I'm relying on the image that I found on Google because you guys, I'm not that good with identifying different dinosaurs, so I need something to look at details and things like that. Okay, so here I have this, then there's some bumps, and then there's a little brow for another eye. And here on these spines, you know, Spinosaurus, we've got these shadows. So I want to put them in because they are the identifying feature, really. Kind of almost like a fan. So any area that either is darker because of the skin texture on the image, again, as I said, I've never seen Spinosaurus in real life. Please leave a comment if you have. It will be very interesting. And any areas that would be catching natural shadows as well. Like say a nostril, it's quite a dark, it's quite a large nostril on it. Little wrinkles on the neck there. And you see now, you know how we went over with the overall gray sort of a shade. Now we can add more details and things like, you know, those front paws, identify those a little bit clearer. What do you guys think? Do you think they really were this leathery, or do you think they were more like birds? You know, having more feathers. I think they definitely had a bit more fat on them, you know, the way versus what they actually portrayed as in many sketches and museums and stuff. But yeah, please leave your thoughts on this in the comments. It's been quite interesting to hear what you guys think. And there's another leg there in the distance. And now again I'm going to shade those in, create the shadows. Now I'm actually going to take this, and rather than smudging everything, I'm kind of going to dab in some areas because I want this dinosaur to be part of the landscape. So I don't want it to be super sharp everywhere. So just dab, 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 dab like that. Now let's give him some ground to stand on. Go back to this pencil. Some kind of plants. Again, just a little bit of a smudge. Some grassy bits growing in the water. And of course reflections. Now you can always go in more detail and add things, you know, any kind of other plants and things like that. Some ferns. Soften the edges a little bit, again, you know, creating more of that sort of a rounded composition. And now let's get into more detail using eraser as well. But just before we do that, I just want to darken some of the areas here at the front. Add more vegetation in the water. Okay, now I'm going to use eraser to create some highlights, especially because there's like a pattern that's going through the skin. So some there, and then there are little patches. And remember, you can always add a little bit of lighter areas anywhere you'd like. So anywhere you want to create a bit more of the three-dimensional sort of a look, you can add a little bit of shadow and highlights, and that gives it a little bit more volume. A few reflections on the water. Just a little bit more definition on the back here. Now, as you can see, as the drawings progress, the easiest one was very step by step. Now, as they become more complicated for more advanced sketching, you can see how there is much more leeway and much more that you can do using your imagination or the images that you are working from. So the more advanced you become, the more possibility there is for you to create things that you want to create. I'm just going to make another fern tree sticking out there. And you know how I said we're going to leave this area a bit lighter and everything else darker? We can add, like right in the middle of this area, we can add the sun. Remember, just like we did in the first sketch, but just maybe a little bit bigger like that. Here we go. What do you guys think? Now all that's left to do is remove the masking tape. Okay, you guys, and as I promised in the beginning of the video to show you the special thing that will help you get better at drawing much faster. Now, this special thing is your phone. Well, it's not exactly just your phone, but I'm just going to explain in a second. So, when you have a your smartphone, and almost everyone these days has a smartphone, you'd have it in the case. I don't know about other things, but if you've got an Apple, they're absolutely horrible now to hold in your hand. They're not really designed to be handled without one. Doesn't matter what case you can have something like this. This is not my phone. I had to borrow it for the video. You can take little pieces of paper, pre-cut them like we did for these drawings, and you can keep them like this with you. Because your phone is always with you, all you need to do is, whenever you get a free time, whether you're in the cafe, you're waiting for an appointment, maybe you're sitting and waiting for a dentist to call you into the office, or maybe you're on the bus, or any time when you are actually just get 10 minutes, and you saw how quick it is to do these drawings. You can just get your piece of paper out, place it there, get a pencil, and you saw we just needed pretty much a pencil, tissue paper, and an eraser. And these things, tissues are everywhere. You can go into any bathroom and there's plenty of tissues. You can just have a little pencil with you and an eraser. They won't take much space. Sometimes you can even get holders with the phone where you can fit a little pencil in as well. And you can just sit there and draw. If you don't have a case like this one, that's why I borrowed it. It's quite a good one, because then you can open things. See, it's got even little things, but these I think a bit too small. Even if you don't have one like this and you just have a regular phone case, what you can do is remove the phone from the case like that, give it a good clean, and you can keep your papers for drawing in there like this and have your phone. You just need a couple of pieces, because then once you've used them all up, you can, restock. And this just becomes your little easel, because you can just hold on to it like you normally would to the phone, whatever your holding position is, and just doodle a little bit. You can turn it around, whatever. You might actually have a phone case that sort of hugs it even more. On my old phone, I used to have one of those, sort of the lips went over, so that can even hold your paper in place. What this does is that it puts a possibility for you to draw right then and there. Anytime, 10 minutes, you can do this. And what this will do is it will eliminate the dilemma. So what I found with, sometimes even like on Patreon, I get, a person signing up and saying, look, Layla, can you put, a few videos in order for me to learn from the beginning, because I really don't know how to do stuff. So I would do this, and then they can't follow through because work commitments, because of family commitments, because to sit down and allocate, 3-4 hours during the day just to learn how to draw. And sometimes you might allocate this time, but by the time that time comes around, you're so tired, you just need sleep or rest or whatever. And those things are also very important. So, and if you do go along with this, honestly, just write in the comments, please. I want to know your experience, because people that have done this, that I've suggested this to, they actually told me that now they realize how much time during the day would be taken up by very useless and pointless things. Like, for example, you have your phone with you. What are you going to do? You're going to open it up. You're going to fiddle with it, go on social media, maybe, play a game or something like this. You just have 10 minutes. You, after all, just waiting to see, your friend or a doctor or something like this. So this is the time that's wasted. And if you've got few pieces like this, you will be able to create a little sketch. And you know what? If you don't get to finish it, if you don't like it, it's just a little off-cut. You can always just chuck it away. There's no pressure. So please try this and tell me how you get along. Will you also get that epiphany about how much time you actually spend doing nothing, just wasting? Please, please, please do try it. So what do you guys think? Which one is your favorite? Which one would you start with? Or which one do you think you would be brave enough to actually pick up a pencil and work with? Please let me know in the comments. Also, let me know if you'd like me to do another video with little small sketches, maybe in watercolor or colored pencil, or whatever you'd like, more of the same, more of the drawing with pencil. So it's up to you. Please let me know. I always read through the comments, at least the ones that YouTube lets me see. And I really look forward to hearing from you. I want to say a big thank you to my wonderful patrons who are supporting this channel and making these videos possible for everyone to watch. And I hope to see you soon in the next video. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.